Welcome to the fourth episode in a Legendarium series about the creation of Normandy. In this installment, Rule by the Sword, we will talk about how Rollo the Viking established his capital at Rouen, made it a center of the slave trade, and consolidated power over what would become known as Normandy. By the year 911 AD, Rollo had become Count of Normandy and established his capital at Rouen, a town located near the mouth of the Seine River on the Channel coast. His new realm took its name from the Vikings themselves, called Northmen and then simply Normans. Generations later, Orderic Vitalis described the town as a fair city, set among murmuring streams and smiling meadows, strongly encircled by walls and ramparts and battlements. Yet the captives who made their way to Rouen would have found little fare there. The treaty between Charles the Simple and Rollo left the boundaries of Normandy ill-defined, and Rollo pressed his rights by the sword. Throughout the 910s, Rollo fought in the mouth of the Loire River Valley and expanded into Middle Normandy during the 920s. As his Normans pushed their way west and south, their wars doubled as slave raids. By carrying off and selling young men and women, the Normans financed their wars and state building. Some slaves remained in Normandy to serve their new masters, but most would be loaded into ships and sold at ports of call from Dublin in the west to Kiev in the east. Slaves in early medieval Europe endured treatment worse than that doled out to beasts. Their masters branded or castrated them as a matter of routine and punished them with amputation or death if they tried to run away. Male slaves would be stoned to death by other enslaved persons, and women would be burned at the stake. What William of Malmesbury wrote of the English slave trade a century later could surely be said of the Norman slave trade. William of Malmesbury wrote, "They would purchase people from across the kingdom and sell them off to Ireland in the hope of profit, and put up for sale maidservants after toying with them and making them pregnant. You would have groaned to see the files of young people roped together. It would have aroused the pity of barbarians, their being put up for sale every day." Yet Rollo brought more than fire and destruction to Normandy. After his pact with the Frankish king Charles the Simple, Rollo and his men gradually adopted the pre-existing political and church structure within northern France. Just like a Frankish count, Rollo began rewarding his Viking followers with land holdings called fiefs, which they used to support themselves and their armed retinues. Land for loyalty assured that Rollo could call upon a great force of armed warriors whenever he required. As Vikings, they ruled with sea power, but in their new home, they needed land power. To create a dynasty, Rollo had already married Papa of Bayeux, the daughter of Count Berengar of Rennes, and the couple had a son named William I Longsword. Other sources claim that Rollo married the king's daughter Gisela after he repudiated Papa. Most likely he took a second wife in the Norse style, something that would have shocked the Christians of early medieval Europe. Rollo also adopted the rough justice of his new realm. For cases which required a man's truthfulness to be determined, Rollo wrote trial by ordeal into law. This meant that a suspect had to pick up a red-hot iron, carry it 3 paces down the church nave, and drop it. If the wounds began healing in 3 days, the suspect would go free. And given that such wounds could take a month to heal, a man had better not be accused, though it's important to note that this practice dated back centuries, and Rollo simply wrote this long-standing Frankish custom into law. Rollo's law code strongly emphasized personal honor and responsibility. A man who was wronged would be expected to take part in punishing wrongdoers. Count Rollo set an example when he ordered men who slandered his reputation and that of his wives Papa and Gisela to have their heads chopped off in the public square at Rouen. The executioner plied his trade with a heavy axe, which meant he took several blows before he finally separated the heads of the slanderers. For peasants who attempted to murder a tax collector, Rollo ordered his men to chop off their hands and feet. Local bishops found these measures a little excessive, and they appealed to the Pope for advice. Reportedly, the Pope advised the bishops to see Rollo's conversion to Christianity not as an event but a process, which would inevitably take time to complete. It seems that Rollo, born a pagan but baptized a Christian, hedged his bets as he lay on his deathbed. On the one hand, he donated 100 gold coins to Christian monasteries. On the other hand, he also ordered 100 bulls to be sacrificed to Odin. In any case, after Rollo's death in 928 AD, he passed a stable and prosperous county to his son, Count William I Longsword. Like his father, he proved a capable warlord. Unlike his father, he spoke his mother's native language, a dialect of West Frankish rich with Norse loanwords, later called Norman French. Even less like his father, he embraced the commandment which read, "Thou shalt have no gods before me." Count William Longsword proved to be a devout Christian, endowing great churches built from stone, some dedicated to the memory of his pagan father. And the Christian William Longsword would lead Normandy into a new era. This wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.